You look at what they did last week against the Eagles. They came this close to upsetting them. And then the week before, when they were playing Kansas City, that they almost beat the Super Bowl champions. So we feel that since we were able to go in there and literally mollywop them, Rico, we fumbled the day and we fumbled the ball again. But we feel that we were able to get it back with Jalen Tolbert and Cooper Rush with his 3 TD passes against a team that almost beat the Eagles and almost beat Kansas City. That we're really a good team, and we're going to keep the course the same. His knee was down. Yeah, that's they're going to be out there patting themselves on the back. We believe in it. The way our guys, they came out there with nothing to play for, but, Mike got them out there ready, and they kept fighting all the way, and, they played a hell of a game. It's like, Stephen Jones, you know what? Stephen, you and Jerry, shut the fuck up.
Shut all the way the fuck up until you reach the top of Shut Fuck Mountain, where there are no more fuck ups to
My, how much better the coffee tastes when you win. Good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. I hope everybody's having a great day. All right, we've got to answer some real questions here. The funniest thing to me is the trolls that I have. I've got so many people that just hate me, hate the Dallas Cowboys, and they just love to come up in here and talk smack. So, I've got Eagle fans that are literally coming in. Oh, you're pounding your chest about beating a 3-win team. I get it. Our team stinks. We're terrible. But when you think that the Cowboys have the most, I believe, if not the most, second or third at best, most missed games by their starters on a team that did nothing in free agency, that was thin to begin, top-heavy roster. The fact that they've won 6 games is kind of a miracle, I'll be honest with you. Because the same Carolina team, for those that live in glass houses, for you Eagles, congratulations with the big win yesterday. You struggled with these guys yesterday. I know that's a small moral victory for me, but for us Cowboys, but hey, it is what it is. And then, of course, we got people that are saying, well, you're just stupid because you should just be tanking to get high draft picks. Well, there's no guarantee that having high draft picks is going to do you anything, because I can say the New York Giants are always drafting in the top 10, sometimes multiple picks in the top 10s, and you can't say that that's helped them at all. I can look and I can say Micah Parsons was the 12th pick in the draft for us. I can say Tyler Smith was the 26th pick in the draft for us. So it's more of your evaluation, and I think this draft where the Cowboys have right now, we're sitting here today as we sit and talk, we're sitting in the 14th slot. If you go by NFL.com, they'll say, of course, our needs are running back, defensive lineman, linebacker, safety, and wide receiver. I'm not sure with the emergence of the offensive line, which is a correlation, of course, to being able to run the football, and Rico necessarily say that you need a running back. That it's, where we say first round draft pick, we're going to take running back. Rico, who for the first time since 2012, an undrafted player, has had 300-yard games in a row. And I'm not going to say that Rico now all of a sudden is a better running back. He may be now that he's got more experience. But I'm going to say that the Cowboys' offensive line is playing better. And it's crazy to think that the offensive line is playing better without Zach Martin. But Zach Martin was so battered and bruised that he was becoming a liability. And you're actually seeing Terrence Steele. Maybe Terrence Steele has seen some of the writing on the wall and has realized he's got to step up more because he's now playing better. And Brock Hoffman seems to be doing great things. Brock Hoffman, who has now played at center for 2 weeks because Cooper Beebe has been injured, has been playing really well. We may get Cooper Beebe back. At this point, here's what I would look at as far as the rest of the 3 games, is experimenting. And maybe what you want to do is, since Cooper Beebe was an outstanding guard, maybe you want to play him at guard some and figure out between the two of them which is the better guard, which is the better center to get ready for next year. The future's now. And you can see that the offensive line has definitely been blocking better. Now, here's where it gets to be funny, because I know people will say, well, Cowboys are better without Dak Prescott, because let's be real here. The Cowboys have won 3 of their last 4 games. Be it was Washington, although they're going to be a playoff team, the Giants, which are sitting in the number 1 pick. That's not necessarily a big win. A blocked punt away from not touching the football, from possibly having 3 in a row, and then going on the road as an underdog, convincingly beating a team that you should take care of. That's better football. I'm not saying that's against the Kansas Cities and the Eagles and things like that, but in the NFL, if you can win a game, you can win a game. That's important. And so you look at this and saying, maybe they've turned a corner and they've gotten some players that have gotten better with the system. What we're seeing here is all together the team playing better. You're seeing, at least we'll find out better next week against Tampa Bay, but you're seeing the defensive lines playing better. Osa and Digazua and Mazi are becoming a good combination on your interior defensive line. Since Micah Parsons come back from injury, Micah Parsons is back where he was before, because he's had 7.5 sacks since he came back from injury. He had 1 before he was hurt. His season was looking terrible until he got hurt. And now he's just 1.5 sacks away from getting double-digit sacks every single year to start his season. And that's huge. In fact, he is only, I think, 4 sacks away from passing Randy White in sacks in the Cowboys all-time list. So there's still a lot for him to play for here. When we look at the offensive line beginning to gel, that has a direct correlation to Rico being able to run the football, along with actually saying, let's stop with the whole running back by committee thing, and let's just go ahead and let Rico go. Rico is now averaging 5 yards a carry. 5 yards a carry. The only question you have to ask going forward is, can he be a lead back where he is going to be an all-game back? Is there a ceiling where you say, we don't want more than 15 touches a game? Or can it be that 15 to 20 type player where he's not going to get worn out? That's a question that I can't answer at this moment. But as we sit here, for those that are saying, we just screwed up draft position, let's go through here real quick and see how it sits. And it wasn't even conceivable, because basically you've got the Giants at 2-12, number 1 spot, the Raiders 2-11, second spot, Patriots 3-11, Jaguars 3-11, Panthers 3-11, Titans 3-11, Browns 3-11, and the Jets 4-10. Bears 4-9. You weren't going to catch any of those guys. We had too many wins early on to get anywhere close. So then you look at it and say, had we lost yesterday, we would have been 10th, possibly, because New Orleans beat us, because they're 5-9. You got the Dolphins that are ahead of us at 6-8. You got the Colts that are at 6-8, and you got the Bengals at 6-8, and then us, we're tied there. I don't know how the Bengals aren't behind us. I don't know how they're ahead of us since they won last week, but they are. So the win cost you at best 4 spots. I don't know that 4 spots necessarily is going to make you a Super Bowl winning team or not. And the reality is the worst you will do is 17 if you win some of the games going down through here. But for me, there's nothing worse than getting used to losing. You do not want your team to get used to being losers. You want those guys, even when there's nothing out there to fight for, to be fighting tooth and nail, to have a winner's mentality, that it doesn't matter what the odds are, that they're playing to win that game, and they're giving it your all. So I'm not worried about the draft position. If you think that, if we lose, and it's quite possible we naturally tank the rest of the way, it's quite possible that we do lose the next 3 games. Tampa Bay is playing pretty good. Baker Mayfield is having, is a good quality quarterback. They've got a good running game, and that's going to go against our weaknesses right there, stopping the run. It'll be a good measuring stick. And some of this turnaround for the Cowboys may be that Mike Zimmer is finally getting some time to get his system together where the players are getting on the right page. That's part of it. And that these younger guys are learning the system. So for those out there that are looking to say the coach is gone, he's making the case on why he should be here. I want you to listen to Micah Parsons after the game real quick here.
About your defense, you're missing pieces, and you guys are still doing what you need to do.
Yeah, we just keep finding ways to step up. I kind of hit on it, like I said before. We're going to be in these games. We got to step up defensively, understand what we're missing offensively, even some guys on our side, but we just got to keep stepping up. I mean, this was a good team. Gave Eagles a fight, Chiefs, Broncos. I mean, it's a team that, coming in here, we didn't want to take lightly because of the film, what they was putting out there, so we got to find ways to keep putting it together. We got an explosive team next week, too.
How big was Leofold forcing that fumble to kind of get this going?
Oh, that was tough. He made up for it. He can't make a clip now. I needed that, huh? Oh, that was tough. Like I said, he's a guy that's going to keep stepping up for us. He's really doing his thing.
Defensively, obviously, just as a team, you guys had that good loss a few days ago. You used the Marvin Jones show. You did feel most of the defense bounce back on the road and have this defensive output today. What does that say?
Man, it just says, like I said, we're not going to give up. As long as I'm part of this unit, as long as we believe in each other, at the end of the day, I could look to my left and know I could count on them. We fighting for each other, There's a lot of guys fighting for new contracts, guys fighting to take care of their families. So there's still a lot of football to be played, and you don't want to put nothing bad on film or things like that. So, we fighting for each other at this point. At the end of the day, the record's the record, the game's the game. We're going to lose some, we're going to win some, but, it's a special feeling when you can fight for each other.
Price had been probably better coming in this week. What was kind of the game plan to shut them down?
Yeah, it was stop that run. The fact that we sold the whole Hubbard, and also the way the offense was running the ball, complimentary football. They felt like they had to put some points up on the board. They had to get after, get away from the run because it wasn't hitting early on. So, it allowed us to be able to get after the quarterback. So, that's what complimentary football does. When our offense playing that well, can put in consistent drives, push pressure on them, and they had to get away from their game plan.
How difficult was it about you, how you get break games, and some of the other guys on defense as well? Can you just talk about what Osa has been able to do just in his career, but also on his basis?
Bro, Osa, I can't, besides, as a veteran guy, consistently just keeps making jumps, keeps getting better. We talk about his future a lot, about where he wants to be and things like that. And what he wants, man, I just see a guy that comes in every day, maximizes his, potential, a guy who's stepping up, being a leader, being the vocal leader at that every day, demands the best and greatness from everyone. So am I surprised? No. Am I happy for him? I'm super excited because, he makes my job easier. I was like, yep, Osa, keep going to the other side. They're going to have to start playing honest. And, opened a lot of things up. So, as long as he keeps getting better, really good things is happening. I can't really speak as someone who's really not a better person than Osa, for real.
You mentioned you guys playing for contracts.
8.5. Yes, sir. What'd I tell you?
Mike, you mentioned you guys playing for contracts. You're in a similar situation right now. There was a report this morning that the organization hasn't ruled out potentially trading you in the offseason. When you hear conversations like that, does that motivate you to go out and do what you did today and show, hey, keep me around?
Nah, I understand how that business side goes. Listen, no hard feelings in this business. Whether I'm here or anywhere else, obviously I stayed how I wanted to be here. But, at the end of the day, I understand the business side. And, I put in a lot of work. I play hard, too. So, obviously, if sides can't, agree to those type of things, that happens like that. But, I'm just happy to be here, and I'm going to just keep playing hard while I'm here. And if I'm here for next 5-6 years, I'm going to keep playing hard then too. So it ain't really nothing going to make a difference. Micah going to play hard.
There you go. I'm beginning to like the new and improved Micah Parsons. I'm really beginning to like the new and improved Micah Parsons, because Micah Parsons is really becoming a team leader. So we've had a lot of questions here that we have to answer, and we're going to go through them because at this point, next year has already started for us. Let's be clear here. Next season has started for the Cowboys. I know we have a 1% chance of making the playoffs. We have a 1% chance, okay? To me, that's saying the season is over. Now it is all about what can we do to make sure we are the best team hitting the ground running that we can be when the league year starts. What can we put in place to get ahead of everybody else? And that's going to be, first and foremost, the coaches that we want to keep here, okay? Now you're seeing what the Cowboys defense did yesterday against Bryce Young. We know that the Panthers are not a good team. We do know that, okay? But knowing that you have so many players, that you are minus Diggs, that you're minus D-Law, that you're minus a Sam Williams, okay? You're minus a Overshown, that you're getting young guys that a lot of people never heard of that are out there playing. That this unit under Mike Zimmer, just listen to this. They sacked Bryce Young 6 times. They forced 2 fumbles. They got 2 interceptions and only allowed 3 third-down conversions and only gave up 60 yards rushing. Bro, had it not been for the Cooper Rush fumble, where they immediately turned around and ended up being a 90-yard play, this game would have been completely a blowout. I don't know that Carolina that gave them a little momentum, got the score 10-7. That was a momentum changer, and when you get a takeaway, you immediately want to go for the jugular. It's exactly what they did. Caught us sleeping and got a touchdown real cheap. Other than that, you saw the Dallas Cowboys defensive line play and dominate. And you're beginning to see now Mike Zimmer's defense maybe take a hold. And you have to look and say, do we want to say, let's get rid of that guy and the coaching staff that's there and start over? Because now you're seeing, one thing that I love seeing was, as soon as that game was over, Micah Parsons was over there with Mike Zimmer, arm around him. So you're beginning to build actually a coach and player reputation between those guys. So you have to look at this and say, if we're bringing in a new head coach, are we going to hamstring him and say, you got to keep Mike Zimmer? In which case, then you're probably bringing in a patsy coach who's going to bend over to all your wishes, which means he's not really a coach other than a name. And if you're doing that, then you have to look at this and say, the Cowboys' game plan here without Dak Prescott, they relied on the run, and they were efficient in passing the football. I don't know why the game plan changes so much when you don't have Dak, but it does. And that's really more of the winning formula. I would love to see the Cowboys do kind of the same things with Dak Prescott, that the offensive line would give him some time instead of him having to run for his life, and see a running game with my quarterback. Because when you can rush for 100 yards, think back to as great as the teams that were loaded with the Dallas Cowboys. When Emmitt Smith rushed for 100 yards, it was almost guaranteed that the Cowboys were going to win. When they didn't, it was kind of more like a 50-50 crapshoot. And even coming off of Super Bowl, when Emmitt held out for the first 2 games, we lost them without him. So remember, running the football is a quarterback's best friend. And so let's finish this great feeling we have this morning with good old Norm, who's going to kind of let you know who really gets credit or should get a lot of credit.
If I were awarding a game ball in the Cowboys locker room after the win yesterday at Carolina, I know who I'd give it to. Oh, yes, CeeDee Lamb had a fantastic day receiving. Dowdle had another wonderful day running. And Osa Odigizua was terrific in the middle of the Cowboys' defensive line. But my game ball for the win against Carolina would go to head coach Mike McCarthy and his staff. Consider what they were facing this week. Monday evening, they had a gut-wrenching loss to Cincinnati that tore up virtually all of their playoff hopes. And 5.5 days later, the kickoff was happening in Carolina. Mm-hmm. Imagine how down the Cowboys must have been Monday night after that loss, that last-minute loss to Cincinnati. And consider that in Carolina, they were meeting a team with a poor record, but looked eager to play. They'd played well 5 games in a row coming into Sunday against the Cowboys. What a job by Mike McCarthy and his staff. Not only getting the Cowboys up, but getting the Cowboys in gear to dominate virtually all 60 minutes against the Panthers. Next, I thought Sunday was an incredible example of how much football is a game of momentum. Entering the game, Dallas didn't have momentum off that awful loss to Cincinnati. And Carolina did have momentum. They'd won 2 of their last 5 games and played Kansas City and Tampa and Philadelphia right to the final gun. Mm-hmm. But when the game started, Carolina looked like they still had that momentum. They took the ball and moved it downfield methodically. But on the 13th play of that drive, a first down at the Cowboy 18-yard line, Bryce Young was flushed out of the pocket and decided to run. And he scrambled, and instead of sliding, he dived head first. That left himself vulnerable to having the ball poked out by Marshawn Kneeland. Dallas recovered, and Carolina, with an enormous opportunity to take immediate momentum of the game, lost that opportunity. They would never, ever get a chance again to lead in the first half of the game. But in the last minutes of the first half, with Dallas already up 10 and moving inside the Carolina 20 again, Cooper Rush made a massive mistake.
That fumble.
He simply fumbled the ball as he started to roll out. Dropped it. And Carolina recovered. And not only did that keep points off the board and keep the Dallas lead at 10, but on the very first play of the Carolina possession, an incredible mistake in the Dallas secondary left the wide receiver Coker all alone running downfield. An 83-yard touchdown.
83,
Carolina had narrowed the lead to 10-7 at the half, a half where Dallas dominated virtually every moment of the first half. And yet, Dallas only led 10-7. You can imagine what the locker room must have been for Carolina. They were down 3. But suddenly they were right back in the game because they were getting the second half kickoff. And I can imagine there were some disappointed people in that Dallas locker room knowing how they'd control the first 30 minutes and yet only led by 3 points. And Carolina got the ball to start the second half. But the first play of the second half, Young was sacked by Osa Odigizua, and he fumbled, and Dallas recovered. And 5 plays later, a touchdown pass to Jalen Tolbert, and Dallas led 17-7. And they would never look back.
Nope, they didn't.
Momentum, loss of momentum, momentum potentially regained, momentum lost. Dallas eases on home with a 16-point win. Next, this game also told us something about each of the team's quarterbacks. Cooper Rush doesn't have a big arm. He doesn't throw the ball much downfield, though he did a couple of times Sunday. But he's a solid NFL backup quarterback. Solid. And Dallas should think immediately of how they make sure they get Cooper Rush back in the fold next season.
There you go.
As the backup quarterback here, because he's free. On the other side, Bryce Young looked to be making progress. The few games he'd been back after being benched and getting his job back, Bryce Young looked like a much better player. But in Sunday's game, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions. But something else, besides all those mistakes, I have to tell you, I haven't seen a lot of Bryce Young playing quarterback. Carolina games are not must-see TV the last year and a half or so.
A couple years.
But watching Bryce Young Sunday, I don't like his body language. He's passive, not inspiring, not commanding, not fiery, and also not big. At times he looks very small and almost frail at times. I'm not sure Bryce Young is a long-time answer, a quarterback for Carolina.
You have to wonder. That's why
Next, the game brought to the forefront 2 challenging situations this offseason for the Cowboys. First, their defensive tackle situation is not good. It's not deep, but it does have one solid player, and that's the aforementioned Osa Odigizua. Boy, he had a solid game against Carolina yesterday, and he's been a solid player in his 4 years here. But he's free after this season. And the NFL really likes defensive players who can stop the run and contribute to the pass rush. Odigizua is going to cost some money this offseason because solid defensive tackles get offers. And to that note, Stephen Jones this past week said that the Cowboys' cap this coming offseason would be really tight. That's a quote. Really tight again. There's money being carried over from players who are gone. There's dead money coming up for potential players who will go away. DeMarcus Lawrence, Brandon Cook, Zach Martin. And
which we covered, yes.
That's not going to leave a lot of money for the Cowboys to spend in the offseason. Much like last offseason, when the club got heavy criticism for doing very little in the way of talent acquisition. Which brings us, besides Odigizua, to Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle pounded away again yesterday. 6 yards a carry, 149 yards in all in his last 3 games, 392 yards rushing, 3 straight 100-yard games, and in those 3 weeks, the most rushing yards of any back in the NFL. Rico Dowdle now is at 880 yards in the season. And at the pace of the last few weeks, Rico Dowdle is going to wind up as an 1,100 or 1,200-yard rusher.
More than Tony Pollard last year. More than Zeke Elliott.
And he's free. Free for anybody to bid on. Odigizua and Dowdle together this year make about $2.5 million.
That's why
combined.
we believe in our guys that we draft.
Next year, if the Cowboys are to keep them,
18.
I think the Cowboys should figure they're going to cost combined $15 to $20 million.
I said 18. Okay.
And remember,
Close.
the Cowboys cap is really tight next year. And we
If they
haven't
want it to
even
be.
begun to address other Cowboy free agents to be, like Jordan Lewis, Chuma Edoga, Chauncey Golston, Cooper Rush, Eric Kendricks, and the punter Brian Anger. And all of those are playing significant roles on this team. And finally,
we'll throw in Tyler Smith.
boy,
too.
Dallas almost got some unexpected help in the playoff chase.
New Orleans.
When New Orleans rallied from 14 points down to get to within 1 point of Washington and went for 2 to win the game, but failed. Wow, a New Orleans upset would have been so inspiring to the Cowboys.
It would have helped. It would have kept the playoff hopes
but it
alive.
didn't happen. Dallas is now 6-8 with 3 games left. Washington, the nearest wild card for the Cowboys to chase, is 9-5 with
to lose
3
all
games left. Well, the math is pretty easy. Dallas has got to beat Tampa, Philly, and Washington, all conceivably playoff teams, in their final 3 games. And then have Washington lose all of their final 3 games of the season. And that's as faint as the Cowboy hopes are. But, that doesn't even account for other teams who have better records than the Cowboys. Like,
We'll end it right there with Norm, but shout out to Norm because he's been there forever, and he's definitely one of Walker Wade's favorites. But like we've talked about it, that's just the closest one that you have a chance to get. But just Washington slipping doesn't mean somebody else slips in there, because you've got now the Cardinals, you've got the Rams, and you got the 49ers that are still ahead of you behind Washington as well. So the playoffs, it's not good. It's just not good. And this is where I'm going to say that Mike McCarthy has staked a claim in retaining the job, that the team didn't go off a cliff, that had it not been for touching the punt, they'd be on a 4-game win streak and would probably have actually some real playoff hopes that would be alive. But it didn't. So that's where we are, good people, and you know how it is. We're going to roll up out of here, and as always, I appreciate you guys. Peace.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition. This is ABC's Wide World of Sports.
Brought to you by Lincoln Mercury. Nobody has more kinds of cars for more kinds of people. See them at the sign of the cat. By Goodyear, makers of the custom Steel Guard radial tire. And by State Farm Mutual. Almost anywhere you live, there's a State Farm agent nearby. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.